Heart Warriors, welcome back to another episode of the Heart to Happiness Summit. Now, today we have been talking about so far, there's 7 key areas that contribute to the formula toward your perfect happiness. Knowing that happiness and chronic happiness is not the goal, but to know what your joy is and to know what brings you joy, not the media, not everybody else, but specifically today, we're going to get into your path, your passion, your career. And this visionary I have with us today, I met 3 years ago. She's amazing. I met her at I don't know if you guys have heard of the Prestige Esalen in Big Sur, California, but I picked her to see her based on this little paragraph that was in the handbook. And I went, you know what? It's time for me to unleash my calling. And so it sounded perfect. I went there. I had the time of my life. I dream about this place all the time. And what Tama Kieves has done for me to unleash my calling is the reason that probably I'm even doing this today, is the reason that I have the confidence to be who I am and to show up as I am. So let me introduce you guys to Tama. She's on the other line right now, and she's going to join us in just about 10 seconds here. Tama Kieves, and I'm going to bring this little thing over here. Tama Kieves has an honors graduate of Harvard Law School. She left her law practice with a prestigious corporate law firm to write and help others discover and soar in their life's work. She's the nationally best-selling author of This Time I Dance, which I love the name of that book because I've been dancing like crazy and exercising my fears. It's called This Time I Dance, Creating the Work You Love and Inspired and Unstoppable, Wildly Succeeding in Your Life's Work. And most recently, A Year Without Fear, 365 Days of Magnificence. Now, she was featured in a lot of different places. You guys may have even seen her on TEDx Talks already. She was in US Today, the Huffington Post, Forbes, as well as on ABC News, Oprah Radio. I think you guys have heard of Oprah, right? And other national media. She's a sought after speaker and visionary career success book coach who has helped thousands, including myself, worldwide to discover, launch, and thrive in the life, calling, and businesses of their dreams. Now, I call you lawyer turned liberator. So first of all, Tama Kieves, have you heard that one before?
I haven't. I love it.
Yeah, it kind of flows. So now you have liberated yourself. And I think that that's what the listeners need to hear from you, because we all start our journey and find our passion through kind of hitting our own proverbial, I never can say this word right, proverbial wall. I am sick of living this life and I feel like I'm confined and I'm this rat in this prison. So for you were a lawyer, you were living the dream, probably making a lot of money and looked up to and respected, and then you left that to be a liberator. So what prompted that?
I was miserable. I was so unhappy. I had, like you said, I had all the success that other people say you should have. It looked good. It was professional prestige. It was money. But something inside me was dying. I knew there had to be something else. And, like a lot of people, when I was younger, I knew what I wanted to do, but I grew up in a culture and a society that didn't necessarily approve of that. I wanted to write. That was my dream. And I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and my family's Orthodox Jewish. So it was basically, you're going to write, you're going to starve, you're going to write.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And I think a lot of us have that same conditioning of don't do what you love, don't do what moves you, don't do what excites you, stay safe, be practical. And so I went off to law school and I got accepted to Harvard Law School and graduated with honors. And I was on partnership track and just so unhappy because, your work is your life. Every day, every minute, it's your life. And thank God somebody said something phenomenal to me. He said, think about it. If you've been this successful doing something you don't love, what could you do with what you love?
Whoa. Who said that to you?
It was a friend of mine. And it opened up the whole skies for me, because everything in society was telling me, stay safe, be practical, stay safe, be practical. But when something's dying inside you and there's something more you came for, the most practical thing you're ever going to do is to go after what you're meant to do. And so for me, that was the beginning. I left law and I just thought, I need to know. You get one life. I need to know where this is going to go.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the work of Brene Brown too, right? Because you remind me a lot of her.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a huge compliment. I heard her in a podcast recently, and she said, when you jump like that, you were just talking about it. You're at the edge, you're at this cliff. You're like, should I jump? Should I stay for safety? And it's like, when you jumped, did you jump for the experience or did you jump for the landing?
Oh, that's interesting. No, I'm not a jump for the experience, like, woohoo, this is fun. No, I'm very timid, and so I'm a very neurotic, timid liberator.
But so you did it.
I did it. People always say, oh my God, Tam, I wish I had your courage. I wish I had your, oh my God, if I could just have your courage. And at that time, it wasn't courage. It was desperation. It was pure desperation. It was like, I am going to die here. The walls are closing in, because here's the thing. If you have a passion, you have a dream, you have a calling, you have something you are meant to do. And I believe all of us do, by the way. If you have that and you're not living it, you start getting depressed. You start shutting down. Life becomes meaningless to work that hard for something that's not who you are. So for me, it was, I know I need to at least try. I was so scared, but I just thought, you get one life. I need to at least try and see where this is going to go. So that's how I did it.
Can you tell us because I know a lot of people, and this was myself too, and I've flirted with this safety zone many times. I don't know if I'll ever go back, but that feeling, that day, that week, that month that you felt like, I have no choice right now, I need to get out. Like, what were your symptoms? What were your feelings? What were your thoughts? I want people to kind of connect with that, to experience, are they at that point too?
Mm-hmm. So, I was such an achiever and I was so ambitious and I was really good at ignoring my feelings. I was really good at shutting down. I could be paid very well to not feel. And so I would know I was sad. I would know I was miserable, but I would just plug on because that's what professionals do. And at one point, I remember I was reading a case, and as an attorney, you get paid by the minute. You bill by minutes. And I was reading this case over and over and over, and I realized I hadn't read a word. I hadn't taken in anything. I realized that my brain was like shutting down. Like I just didn't want to be there. And so I got scared and I thought, okay, you need a vacation. You need to just get out of here. Just do something else. And so I went to California because that's where you go to find yourself. It's so trite, but true. And so looking at these waves and waves, and I was eating this bagel that I bought and I was journaling, and I realized I'm happier right now than I've been happy all year. Wow. And this ocean is free and journaling doesn't cost anything. And, it was just this moment of this sudden realization that maybe I don't need $1 gazillion to be okay. Maybe that's what I've been told. Maybe that's the programming. But, I feel freer than I've ever felt. And there was that moment of knowing that in this moment, and if you ignore it, that's fine. But 20 years from now, you're going to know that you knew. And so that was it for me. I thought, oh my God. I remember I was coming back on the airplane and I was meeting a boyfriend at the time. And he was like, how was California? How was it? How was it? And I was like, I'm so screwed up. Oh my God, I'm so fucked up. That was just a mess. I was like, I have to give notice, but I can't. Oh my God. So it wasn't a liberating, happy feeling at the time.
Right.
To that.
But that was that, we kind of have to hit that moment and go and where I always like to use the Etch-a-Sketch. Something in our lives has shaken us up where we have to pay attention to it because something is inside of us going, the way that you're living right now is not your truth. And you need to chase your heart, your calling, your passion, and let that start to grow inside of you. And it may not be an overnight thing. Of course, you'll talk about that. But it's it's a little light inside that goes, ding, listen. It's like a microwave, like you have to listen. You can't not, or I would say it's more like an alarm clock, like, you can listen to it. Yeah. So And you said something right now that I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I really want to get into some of the notes that you had enlightened me with when I was with you for 3 empowering days in Big Sur. But there's that study, and you probably have heard of it, but there's lots of people I'm interviewing that talk about this, and I'm going to read from my little notes over here. There's a trend among millennials, younger generation, and they cite a Harvard happiness study that found that 80% of this generation think being rich is the means to happiness. 80% think that wealth, and then 50% think that being famous is the answer to happiness. But however, there's the study that they did recently too that said that if you make more than $70,000 a year, there's no marginal addition of happiness that occurs beyond that. And that's exactly what you were just talking about on the beach. So can you talk about how you talked your way out of that? Because I'm sure that with this new millennial generation thinking that it is about money, 80%, how could we talk them out of that? Like, what kind of edge would they need to be on to have the desperation and not just the courage to walk away from it?
Well, I think you bring up a great point, and I think it's not just the millennials. I think everybody, I think we're so acculturated to believe that money is happiness and security is happiness, and it's so not true. It's just not true. I mean, we see it in the media. We see the constantly, People Magazine and Fast Company and all the, different things, and with social media, it's constant. But something inside you is craving freedom and is craving expression more than anything else. And by the way, that can very well lead to money, and it can very well lead to fame, but not everybody needs that. So I had a visceral experience of following that party line, of doing what you were supposed to do. I was golden child, I had everything you're supposed to have. And I think the thing that I tell people most is that you really don't want money. You want security. You want security. And for me, there's 2 securities. One is the security of health. Because everybody thinks, if I just have enough money, but health is the number 1 security. And by the way, stress is the number 1 cause of failing health, and hating your job is the number 1 cause of stress.
Is it really?
It is. It's one of the number 1 causes of stress is hating your job or not being in your right work. And so again, we think that money is security, but your health is your security, because that's something you can't buy back. You can always make money. You cannot make more time. So that's the first thing I always tell people, because the second they get diagnosed with something, or they have high blood pressure or heart or anything else, they all of a sudden realize, wow, my job is killing me. This isn't worth it. The other security that I would say for me is a spiritual security. And it's this feeling or this knowing that I'm doing the right thing with my time on earth. That yes, I'm scared. Yes, it's varied. Yes, there's fluctuations, but I know that I'm doing the right thing with my time on earth. And very few people can say that. And when you can say that, you can face anything.
That's so true. I feel like, you see that unicorn back there in the mirror?
Yes.
there's, I think a big part of where you touched me, and I mean, you probably, I don't know, you hear testimonials from people and then sometimes you don't, but 3 years later, we were circling back, and I was 4 when I first learned I could talk like Donald Duck. And, since then I've come out with it and been silly, and people like, are you kidding me that you expect to be taken seriously as a nutritionist and talking like Donald Duck? And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop talking like Donald Duck. And then I'll never forget when I was a financial planner and I signed my name, Diane Kazer, with a smiley face on the R. And someone goes, you really think that someone's going to hand you over $1 million to invest when you have a smiley face in your R? And I went, oh, well, I better fit in then. And such a big part of my childhood magic came out when I was with you in those 3 days. And it was like, you know what? Who cares what people think? This is about your life. And you're going to impact the people that are destined to reach you, to find you. And the exercises that I liked that you did, and I want to find out what book this is in so people can get it. When you wrote in this, taking back your time and your mojo, because that's what you just mentioned. Yes. The 3 things that I love that you wrote in there, which is, where am I working, living from fear? That's a good question. And the second one is, where am I working and living from love? And I've interviewed somebody here on finances, and it keeps coming up. Even the gut microbiome specialist that I interviewed, we came up with this together. It's like, where are you literally spending your money in fear? Where are you, like, are you trying to keep up with the Jones?
Absolutely.
Where are you spending on love, your spirituality? Are you investing it in your entrepreneurship? So did you want to comment there on that one?
So first of all, those exercises are from my second book, Inspired and Unstoppable, Wildly Succeeding in Your Life's Work, because I really believe that the way we work in this world affects everything. Because, I meet a lot of people who, This Time I Dance, my first book, is all about transitioning and all about, you hate your job and how do you leave that job and how do you find what you're called to do. Inspired and Unstoppable is more like, okay, you have a dream. How do you do it? But again, through love instead of fear, because you're an entrepreneur. There's a million things. You should be blogging. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And then you lose the magic again.
Totally.
So going back to something you said that was phenomenal was going back to that childhood magic and going back to what made you special? What made you... What made
you unicorn?
Oh, by the way, I had unicorns in my bedroom growing up. That's all I ever about. My first column in my college newspaper was called Song of the Unicorn.
Really?
So, I'm not kidding you. So we obviously have some juju going on.
Totally. And two unicorns.
Yes. But for me, because actually the unicorn was a symbol that's relevant to what we're talking about, was that everybody's trying to downplay their uniqueness and trying to fit in and trying to toe the party line. And what I finally came to realize was I was going to embrace my uniqueness. And I can tell you a practical level of that. As an author, when I first wrote This Time I Dance, Creating the Work You Love, when I was trying to submit it to different agents and, and find a publisher, everybody was saying, it's a little too much memoir. Could you make it more self-help? Or it's a little, it's a little too self-helpy. Could you make it more memoir? Because I was mixing in, I was telling a very, very personal, very real story with self-help. It wasn't just 8 easy steps and two points to figure it out. So people were trying to put it into a genre, but I thought, I want to write the book that I need to read, that I'm dying to see on the bookshelf.
Yes.
And so I finally stayed true to that. And This Time I Dance is what launched my entire career, because readers from all over the world just so related to that book and said, oh my God, thank you for the honesty and thank you for your voice, because it's got a unique voice. And so again, anybody who's listening who's creative, when you're trying to fit in, you're losing your edge. You think it's safer in the middle, but it's safer on the edge. Because when you're on your edge, you're doing what you're meant to do. That's where your light is. That's where your energy is. It takes so much energy to deny who you are. It takes so much energy to downplay who you are. For me, for now, in my career with coaching nationally and leading retreats nationally and speaking, I just get paid to be who I am.
So awesome. So liberating.
Wow. I mean, granted, I had to put on a little makeup today. That was the only concession to vanity.
That's what I say too. I actually did a video the other day on Facebook and said the same thing. It's like, I feel like this is the only mask I put on anymore. And you brought tears to my eyes, because the whole dancing thing for me, Tama, is I have traveled the world myself alone in different countries, and people are like, aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, this is my life and I'm exploring who I am. And I, up until the last probably year or so, was more fearful to dance on a stage, or on the dance floor around other people that I didn't know and be judged, than I was to swim in the ocean with bull sharks and have, the loss of my life as a threat. So for me, I realized I am, sharks, nature, that's truth. People, and those experiences of, don't talk like Donald Duck, don't put a smiley face in your signature. What is this whole bit and like this childhood unicorn stuff that you've got going on? And I'm like, that's me coming out to play. What are you doing with your life? And so now I could finally step in my uniqueness and say that. And what you said was so cool. You said, don't downplay your uniqueness. And unicorn, unique corn. I like that. Maybe that's what the word is really rooted in. So, you get me all jazzed up.
And absolutely. And the thing I would say to you also is that, you just said something very, very powerful, that where you feel natural, you feel alive. So for you, it's nature, right? For you,
Yes.
That's your natural element. You can be yourself. That's true for everybody, wherever your natural element is. And the problem is that many times people are working in a job that isn't their natural element. And then because they're not in their natural element, they don't feel strong, or they don't feel connected, or they don't feel alive. So then they doubt themselves more. They start thinking, well, who am I? I can't just go off and be a writer, and I can't just go off and be an entrepreneur. I can't even survive this lousy job. But what I want people to know is that's normal. Like if you're not in your right element, it's almost like a cactus being in a tropical environment, or it's like getting rain when you need dryness, or it's not getting rain when you're a houseplant and you need rain, right? So if you're not in your element, you're not going to thrive. And so that's a very important part of learning what's my calling, what's my dream, is where do I light up? Where is it natural for me? For me, I'm the opposite of you. Do not give me the bull sharks. Do not give me nature. Nature is lovely to look at. Send me a picture. I like people. I like people. I feel really comfortable if I can connect with people. But even within that, like you said, it's really learning how to still stay true to who you are. And, there's the part of me that says also the same thing, like, well, you should be more professional, and you should be, you should have your 8 bullet points, and you should do PowerPoints. And I'm being who I am, because what I'm demonstrating to people is freedom, is love, is happiness, is being who you're meant to be and getting paid for it, because that, to me, that's your calling.
Yes, yes. And I would love to transition, if we could, in that last 10 minutes, to what I learned from you. And I've kept this for a reason, and it's been close by all the time. Whenever I feel like I'm losing my way in my entrepreneurial approach, and I feel like I'm maybe saying yes to things that don't resonate with me, but gosh, the security is big. If I do this, then I don't have to worry about much financially, but then I have to act and put on this other mask, and it just doesn't feel right, and it feels icky, and I feel like I got these things on my stomach, and my armpits are a little bit more sweaty. It just doesn't feel right. So the 5 ways to beckon joy and find passion. The first one that you wrote down to get the knots out of your thinking and your pipeline so that inspiration can shoot right through you is, number 1, make mistakes. Run with that. Why is that so important to make mistakes?
It's so important to make mistakes because people get so hung up on, well, what if this isn't right? Even in figuring out what you love, what if this isn't right? I don't know if this is right. I don't want to make another mistake. I already made one mistake. And creativity and listening to your inner voice is learning a new language. It's learning a new process. And I don't even believe there are mistakes. In the technological world and in the business world, they call it iterations, being iterative, of, doing lots of different things and adapting and learning. We're so afraid to learn. So what happens with many of my career coaching clients is that, they are afraid to take any step forward because they're not sure this is the right thing, so I'm afraid to take any step forward, and I don't know that this is the exact book I want to write, so I'm not going to write that, or I don't know this is the exact business I want to do, so I'm not going to investigate that. And to me, you're never going to know anything until you act. You're never going to know anything until you try something. Like, even as a writer, I'm never clear about what I want to write until I start writing. When I start writing and writing, then all of a sudden it becomes clear. So I want to free people. I work with this a lot in my career coaching, is I want to free people to get out of that idea that it has to be perfect, or that you have to know exactly what it is. You're not going to figure this out. You're going to let it out. It's a feeling-based thing. It's not from your head. We're doing something from your soul, your calling. It's not from your head. And so, I want to free people to feel safe inside and give themselves permission to try anything and everything, because your life is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and putting yourself out there it can be scary, of course, but it gets so much easier. The more times you trip up, you realize that tripping up is the most fun, because you look back and go, oh, okay, well, I won't jump over that bump again. Or maybe when I come to that bump, I just will turn around.
He who swims with sharks says tripping up is fun. To neurotics like me, not so fun.
True. True. Good
You
point.
like adventure. Some of us do not.
So for those people who don't like adventure,
Yes,
how would you,
yeah.
what would you speak to that?
So I think for me, because I've always been terrified of failing, that's been my big thing. You know, like I have this really prestigious career and a prestigious reputation, and I'm going to walk off into the sunset and find myself and become a writer. And there was this fear that, like, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I make an idiot out of myself? And I think for me, I realized that even more than failure, I'm afraid of regret. You know, that even though I fear failure, I fear regret more. I fear looking back at my lifetime and thinking, but you don't even know what you could have been. You could have tried it. You don't even know what could have happened. So I don't find joy in tripping up. I don't find joy in that adventure necessarily. I do find incredible joy in landing in something I didn't anticipate, like discovering a part of myself or my work that I didn't even anticipate. That's amazing. Like, I did not realize that people all over the world would write to me about my books. I never realized, even starting to do coaching years ago, before coaching was a career, you know, I mean, people would always ask to work with me individually. And so you're going to discover things you don't even know about yourself on this path. What I tell people all the time is, you've touched 1/10 of your strength. You've touched 1/10 of your power.
Ooh.
You really have. You've touched the tip of the iceberg. When you start to listen to a calling or your genius, you're going to wake up to so much more strength, because again, you're not fighting to be something else. Now you're fighting to be who you are.
I love that one. I've mentioned that one a lot throughout this entire series. Is maybe it's not about becoming who you are, it's about unbecoming who you're not, to find out what your real calling is. And I love that one. And I think that everybody's background is different depending on how they were raised. I was a professional soccer player, so I experienced a lot of trip ups and literal falls and injuries on the field. And everybody has their own history and background. So what I love about your approach is that you're still able to get in and inspire people regardless of their background.
Absolutely.
And I love it. Let's move on to number 2, which is reinvent the wheel.
So
instead of, you know, when people say, let's not reinvent the wheel, you write, reinvent the wheel. Forget what studies show, what experts say, and the right way to do things. I love that one, because everybody's like, well, show me the science, show me the study, show me the.
Absolutely. And you're right of, you know, that's a really classic business doctrine of, well, let's not reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. But
Right.
You know what? Genius hasn't already been done. And I'm after genius. I'm not interested in creating another cookie cutter career for somebody. When people come to see me, I'm not interested in helping them find a job. I'm interested in helping them find themselves and on another level that they never even knew. And for me, that's not, that is reinventing the wheel. That's reinventing the universe. That's reinventing your religion. I mean, it's just, it's the courage, and it takes so much courage. And I struggle with it myself, to not listen to all the experts out there and the statistics out there and the data out there and all the information, because I want you listening to inspiration. I want you bringing something new to the world. I don't want you listening to the way the world's been set up. I want you in discovering what you're here to bring the world. So it is the courage to say, you know, I'm not listening to the information. I'm not listening to the experts. I'm listening to what's inside me. I'm listening to the truth that only I know. And even I don't know it sometimes. So again, I've broken every statistic in my career. I did everything the wrong way. Everything the wrong way. My first book, This Time I Dance, I wrote it for 12 years without a publisher, without an agent, without a contract. You're not supposed to do any of that. But I just kept feeling like, I know I'm supposed to do this. And then 4 months after I self-published the book, I got an email out of the blue where somebody said, your fairy godmother has arrived, which I thought was spam, you know. I thought it was going to be like, Russian girls are waiting for you, or crazy, you know.
You're like, yes.
But it was actually a vice president of marketing and publicity for Random House. And she had somehow found my self-published book. And she wrote to me and said, this is the best book I've ever read on finding your calling, doing your dreams. I want to get it to a major New York house. She did. She got it to the publisher I'd always dreamed of, Tarcher Penguin, to the president. They published the book exactly the way that it was. They kept the exact title, the writing. If I had done it a conventional way, I would never have ended up where I've ended up. Yes. And so that's why I teach all my clients, you can't plan an inspired life. You can't plan an inspired life. Your head is trying to figure it out and get the data and get the research and stay safe. And there's a bigger safety. You know, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have ended up where I've ended up. So.
And I think that's actually, you just summarized number 3, which is forget your image and remember yourself. I think that you just, in a nutshell, described that, which I love. Do you have to act in a certain way, let go of your image so that you can meet your essence? And going back to the how you summarize the reinvent the wheel, I love what you wrote about your passion is original. Be present. Don't be a technician. Be a magician. And the be present part, there's a TED Talk that talks about, you know, in the moment, we are more happy, even if it's a miserable moment where we're experiencing sadness or trauma versus trying to imagine ourselves being somewhere else. So I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you're present and you really are in this moment, I do believe you connect with your essence. And when you connect with that essence, you feel a strength. You know, career counselors and coaches and therapists will tell you, you know, you're strong, you can do this, but it's all like head stuff. You know it intellectually, but you don't know it yet.
Yeah,
and when you're present, right, exactly. And when you're present, particularly if you're doing something you love or something that means something to you, it's like almost this like, but this, that came, baby. Yeah. You know, whoa, you know, like that thing comes on out, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, you don't need somebody to tell you that there's power in that there's strength in that, because you know. So I think a lot of this work is daring to listen, daring to trust what's inside you. And when people don't know what they love, when people don't know what they love, a lot of times, you know, when I wrote those 5 guidelines years ago, it's because people are often asking the wrong question. You know, they're always asking, but I don't know what I love. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so I wrote that kind of as a guide, because most people aren't asking, what do you love? What moves you? They're asking, what do you love that makes money? What do you love that you don't need an education for? What do you love that you're not too old for? And I wanted people to just start waking up and really saying, in this moment of my life, what do I love?
The other one too, Tama, and I asked this with all of my clients in the intake form, is what do you love about your life that is you're not experiencing much of, but you want to experience more of if you had better health, if you had better success and more energy and more time to invest in those things that you love. And they're like, fitting in my clothes. And I'm like, no, that's what do you love that gets you attention from other people. But that's a very vain, what do you love? Like, what do you love that, like you mentioned earlier, that you feel like you're your highest self when you're experiencing, where you're not even thinking about anything else. You're not worrying about the past or the future. You're right here, right now. And you're going, I, for the first time in a long time, have been able to just to be plug in and be present and feel my deepest sense of joy.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing. What do you love? Not what do you love that gets you all these other external things like money and attention and, you know, advancements in your career, whatever. It's about what you love. And that's number 4, which I love, is don't monetize the butterflies. So I love that one. And the magic of the moment is why I grabbed my unicorn a minute ago.
I knew it was coming for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, again, with the don't monetize the butterflies, I mean, that's what happens all the time is somebody gets an idea and then they start immediately thinking, well, how much money would that make? And how many years do I have to put that in? I have like a law with my clients. It's like, you are not going to Google this. We are not franchising this.
Ooh, I like that.
We are not doing anything yet. We're going to be with the idea, because sometimes in an inspired life, one idea leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and you don't even end up where you started off. You know, I started off by writing poetry. That was my first love.
That's right.
And then poetry evolved to poetic essays, which evolved to this book on career transition, which evolved to speaking, which evolved to coaching, which evolved to being a national expert. So literally one thing led to another, led to another, led to another, but you never get there if you start monetizing it immediately. You know, if you start, because again, like how we were talking about earlier, that security has such a bigger definition, and we think security is money. But for me, the real security, I always tell, you know, people after I've done a workshop or a retreat is, God forbid when I'm going home on this plane, you know, when I'm flying home, God forbid that plane doesn't land. God forbid that plane goes down. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm a satisfied customer. I'm doing what I'm meant to do. And so you can't buy that kind of security, you know? And so that's why I want people to trust their inspired ideas, play with them, take steps, and let them evolve. But most people shut it down immediately with the wrong questions.
Totally. And that's where I like the whole stop comparing yourself to others, the competition, Googling things. You know, you're the only person that can do what you do because you do it that way. And so I think that people are always talking about business plan and, you know, have a business plan and look at the competition, the economics. And it's like, way to kill a dream. That's like saying unicorns and butterflies and Donald Duck and smiley faces. That's just all hocus pocus, and you need to have a straight face and just follow the money. Like, what? Okay, show me the money. No, show me your dream. Like,
and I have to remind myself constantly, because I am an ambitious person and I am a successful person and I want all that. I have to remind myself constantly that I did not leave one crazy career to go create another one. You know, and that that even in the industry of being free and being entrepreneurial, there's all kinds of hidden rules in that, and, you know, and practicalities in that. And so, but again, even in the business literature, they're showing that innovation comes from disruption, right? And disruption is creative thought, doing it differently. And I guess what I want most people to know is that the gifts that you have, the love that you have, it's not for you. You keep wondering, is my gift good enough? Is my dream good enough? Is what I want to do good enough? I spent years, when I said I spent 12 years writing that book, I spent years analyzing, am I good enough? Would it work? What if it didn't happen? And it never occurred to me that the gift wasn't even for me. It was for other people. It was for, you know, that the gifts that each of us has, we're divinely designed, we're uniquely designed, that the very things you are, that's going to help somebody else, because everybody has their people. Everybody has the people they're meant to connect with and influence. As an author, you know, there's a million books on creating the work you love and doing your dreams. But there are people who resonate with my book. Thank you, God.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, and so same thing. I want people to know that the gift you have, the dream inside that you have, it's not even for you. There are people who right now need you, and only you. They're not going to get it from somebody else. They need you.
I remember the first time that hit me, and it was at your presentation, and I went, wow, I'm actually feeling as though I'm being selfless, or I should say, I feel like I'm being selfish for chasing this dream and being, you know, the competition and measuring myself and I feel like I'm being selfish asking for money to help these people. And then I realized, wait a second, that's the wrong way of looking at it. I'm being selfish if I'm not showing up as my true self, because people are looking for authenticity in the way that I am doing it. There's other people, the competition, that are doing it a different way and looking professional and not putting smiley faces or Donald Ducks or unicorns on the things that they're doing. But there's a way that I'm doing it that will make people want to take better care of themselves. And then I went, damn it, Diane, you are being selfish right now. You were caring too much about people judging you because you're doing it in such a way that's not inspiring them. Well, what about the people who are wanting to be inspired by someone just like you, and you're robbing them of this gift that you can connect with and they can connect with through you?
Wow, absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think a lot of people, you nailed it. A lot of people think that it's selfish somehow to do something that's joyful to you and fun, like fun and easy. Why should you get paid for fun? And it's like, because that's what's natural to you. That's where you're gifted. That's where your essence is. I believe it's a spiritual calling. I believe it's an assignment. I believe that's how you know. And again, I can give more to my clients because I love it. I'm going to give less to them if I hate it. So why wouldn't I be paid? And again, I always tell my clients, you can't buy my love. You can't buy that. It's either there or it's not. But people are paying for time. That's really what it is. You're not paying for love. You're paying for the time, because if I wasn't doing this, then I'd have to go sue somebody. And nobody wants that. I'd much rather heal you.
Oh my God, that's so true. That's so... Well, that's the last one right there is, and that's it. That just summarized it, is chasing your wild want and not your mild want. It's, and when I hear wild want, I see a big train of horses just running free.
Woo, yeah.
That's wild to me. It's like, what's your wild? What is your wild side? And what is it that gets you a little bit nervous when you think about taking that step? Maybe that's the nerves that you need to take that step forward. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I deliberately made that distinction in my book between, like you said, wild want and mild want, because so many people start doing something they love and then they tone it down to be safe. Like, well, I want to do this, but, maybe it's safer if I just tone it down a little bit. And so, like, even for me, when I first left law and I knew I wanted to write a book and I knew I wanted to be an author and I knew I wanted to do that. But I thought, well, just compromise a little bit, do articles. It's safer. Do journalism because it's shorter and you'll get a byline and credibility and you'll make money. But the deal is, if you sacrifice what you really want, if you compromise what you really want, then you compromise your strength. And that's what people don't remember. If you start compromising what you really want in this life, then you compromise your strength to get it. So for me, I was doing journalism and freelancing, but I get all kinds of rejection slips, and I didn't have the stamina to go with it because it wasn't what I really wanted. It wasn't my wild want. It was my mild want. And so when it came to writing a book, I could spend 12 years not having an agent, not having a contract, not having a publisher, because it's what I really wanted. Something inside me knew this is it. This is what I'm meant to do. And so that's why that's one of my, definitely one of my soapboxes with people, is that I want people to touch what they really want in this lifetime, not what they think they should want, not what they think should make money, not what they think is safer, but what you really want, even if it seems wildly impractical to you, because you don't know where that's going to lead. That wild one is putting you for a reason. And to me, that's a calling. That's a destiny. That's a voice inside you that's going to take you to a different strength than you even imagined. So I'm passionate about that distinction.
Yeah, and there is a huge one, and there's so much that you've done for me in awakening that, and it's a big putting my blinders on to what's around me in my life, and taking that inventory of who's supporting me and who's not, what decisions am I making that are outside of myself versus inside of myself, where are the investments going. And I think that of everything that you said today, what would you think that would be, of course, I'm going to refer everybody to your website and just find what resonates most and start there with their journey. But what would you recommend for people making this transition? Because I'm sure at this point they're going, yeah, you know what? I am not living my calling. I'm not. But I'm so scared to leave a paycheck. I'm so scared, my aunt, for example, and the big impetus for me doing this is she was a nurse for her whole life. And what really led to her first breast cancer was that she was a nurse managing multiple nurses. And she was told that she couldn't speak about, the nutrition side of cancer. And she had to, and so she was having to speak completely against her values, managing all these nurses, and it was killing her. And then it did eventually kill her. And so when someone doesn't speak their voice and they're speaking for other people, that literally what you said, it diseases us. And watching my aunt go through this and just watching her complete defeat in the end, I just went, no more. I'm so sick of watching people who I love and care about pass away because they're not listening to that voice, and they're quieting it and literally putting it to death.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess the one thing I would say, I mean, first of all, I do think you need resources to do this. I think you need support to do this. I think you need other people on the path around you going, yes, yes, yes.
Totally.
So that's why I know that you'll give out my contact information, but I'm at tamakieves.com, and I have a free Inspired Power toolkit that gives you all kinds of resources, a newsletter that every month keeps you inspired. I'm on Facebook every single day to keep thousands of people inspired, and on Twitter and all that stuff. So first of all, I do think that you want to get support. You want to get people around you that are almost teaching you not so much what to do, but a different way to think. Because it's not about the 8 easy steps and the 5 easy steps. It's really about, so much of my work is, I'm going to train you a different way to think so that you feel safe and that you know what's right for you and not for someone else. So all my books are on that, of course. But I think if I were going to say one step, just one practical step, first of all, I think one practical step is buy every one of my books because they will train you. But one practical step right now, first of all, I am not saying to anybody that you have to leave a job, because I don't know what's right for anybody. I've worked with so many different clients with so many different variations, and everybody's got their own chemistry with this. So some people really do need to leave a job. Some people need to find what they love in their job. Some people need to do something on the side of their job. So again, if you're listening and thinking, oh God, that sounds nice. If I had money, yeah, I could leave. Maybe you're not meant to leave. Maybe that's not the point of this. But what is the point is that there's something brilliant inside you. And I don't want you denying that another second. So the one thing I would say, the number one thing I would say is do something you love. Do anything you love right now. Maybe it's on Wednesdays, you're going to take a class in acting, or on Saturday mornings, you're going to start taking photography, or you're going to start Googling how to start a business, or just something you love, or you're going to not do any of those things and you're going to take a hike and you're going to clear your mind and your energy, but do something you love, because if you do something you love, it will change your brain chemistry. And if it changes your brain chemistry, you'll have other thoughts, you'll have other knowings, because you know the truth of it when you're hearing it, but I want you to know it inside you. And you're going to know it inside you by taking that action. Do anything you love. Go be with your dog. Go be with your kid. Do something you love. Make sure it's impractical as hell. Because I want it to be something you really love, right? That wild one. And then get back to me. I want to hear how it went.
Like diving with sharks? Does that mean totally impractical? Wait, okay, that's just me. Well, I heard in everything you said today, the takeaway is learning a new language that is love and liberation, and making it easier on yourself. Because I see a lot of people who, and this actually comes from a lot of attorneys. I think I even heard you say this once, is that people find it sexy to brag about how much they worked and how they were drooling on their desks at 2 a.m. and then got back up at 6 a.m.
Badge of honor.
to go back and do it again. It's like, no, that is not fortuitous. That is a death sentence. And that is typically not following your heart. That's following your investment account. So it can be a lot easier. And I'm saying this because I'm living it. And it took me a few years to put things into practice I learned from you, but they were like this seed. And I think little things around me were what fertilized it to grow and grow and grow. And I feel just like you, like I could be on Facebook all day helping people because this is what I love to do. I just love it. I could talk about it all day long.
And that's the thing. It doesn't take energy. It gives you energy. That's what people don't realize. It gives you energy. You have more energy by doing something you love rather than less energy, and there's going to be, I'm sure there's challenges here and there, fears here and there. There will be for the rest of our lives, because we're going to be growing for the rest of our lives. We're going to be following love instead of fear for the rest of our lives.
Tama Kieves, you are a goddess. Thank you so much for today. I love it. And I love that, like, I can look into your eyes. And for those of you guys who are watching this as a video instead of like listening to this when you're driving, look how deep her eyes are. They're like these big, beautiful crystal eyes. I don't know what they look like when you're an attorney. But that would have been cool to see like a before and after.
Right. Bloody, tear-stained, yellow, jaundiced.
Like, is there color in there? Or is that so what? Zombie.
All kinds of eyes.
Totally.
Thank you. so much, and thank you so much for doing what you're doing and the courage that it takes to do what you're doing. I know how much work it takes to do these things, and what an incredible service you're offering so many people. So I'm encouraging everybody who's listening, support Diane. Really, you know, if you love her stuff, if you love these interviews, support the people in the interviews, because behind the scenes, it takes a lot of work. You'll be supporting yourself. You'll also be supporting the people who are making a tremendous difference here. Thank you so much, Diane.
You're amazing, Tama. Heart work.
Yeah.
Heart work, you guys, not hard work. Make it heart work. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and tune in for the next one. But thanks again, Tama Kieves. You're amazing.